finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome back to the Friday Show, presented this week by Smiling Tiger, who's standing at Harris Farms in California. We'll tell you about a deal with him coming up. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. We're glad you could join us. Ray, this weekend is huge for the Breeders' Cup. 21 win-in-your-in races starting today through Sunday, all over the world too. Keeneland to California to New York to France. So this is it. This is the end of the road getting into the Breeders' Cup. Last weekend there were some results. So what is your thoughts based on the most recent outcomes?
Well, like Yogi Berra used to say, it ain't over till it's over. Boy, what a confusing picture we have for some of the divisions and for Horse of the Year. After McKinsey lost at Santa Anita, after Code of Honor stepped up with a first by disqualification victory in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the Horse of the Year picture looks to me very green or very filly and marish. I don't know that we're going to see a traditional dirt horse win Horse of the Year this year.
Well, right now, according to the NTRA Top Thoroughbred poll, Bricks and Mortar, who's undefeated on the grass, 4 Grade 1 wins, he's training up to the Breeders' Cup. He's pretty clearly on top, but Midnight Bizou, the mare who is winning all of her races this year as well, she's got 3 Grade 1s, and she'll have another one in the Breeders' Cup, is right there. So it looks to be between those two. Then you've got McKenzie, who lost. Can he still be in the conversation? And Code of Honor, what happens if he wins the Classic? Is he in the conversation? His trainer, Shug McGahee, said he thought he should be. So you've got at least 4 horses. But between those top 2, it's going to be interesting. If they're both unbeaten at the end of the year, who gets it?
Yeah, it used to be, as I said earlier, that Horse of the Year was a dirt male. It's changed a little bit over the years. We had 3 years in a row with Rachel Alexandra, Zenyatta, and Ava de Grace, who won Horse of the Year. Going back a little bit further, in 2002, I think it was, Azeri won Horse of the Year without racing against males. The other 3 all raced against males. Azeri did not, and she still won Horse of the Year. So there's precedent for that. Midnight Bizou could run the table and win Horse of the Year if she doesn't face males. Turf horses, Wise Dan 2 years, and then going way back to Kodashan, I think in the 90s. There's a little bit more bias against turf horses, but I'm not sure anymore. I think the voting population has changed quite a bit over the years.
Not only that, there's much more turf racing. I mean, turf racing has become much more popular. We've talked about that, and we encourage that, and the bettors like it, and the fans like it. So there's a lot more weight given to turf horses. Now, if Bricks and Mortar were to lose in the Breeders' Cup Turf or the Mile, whichever one he's going in, then I think that opens the door for Midnight Bizou. If she won, it'd be hard to vote against her being unbeaten.
Yeah, I think so. The one thing you have to do, when say they both win and end the year undefeated, then you've got to start looking at how good were the horses they were beating. Midnight Bizou, you said she's had 3 Grade 1s so far. She beat Elate in a really good race. That was a top class race, but some of the other races she won, the fields weren't that deep. And then you start looking at the same with Bricks and Mortar. How good was this year's Arlington Million field? Not one of the better ones in my opinion. But undefeated is kind of, it's tough to knock a horse that doesn't lose.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was saying. All right, we have a poll about this. Let us know what you think. At this point, if you had to vote or project, who do you think will end up winning Horse of the Year? Your thoughts at PaulickReport.com. Well, there's another storyline with the Breeders' Cup Classic. We haven't had filly or mare in the race, I believe, since Havre de Grace in 2011. And, of course, Zenyatta actually won it in 2009. This year, Elate looks to be going in the Classic against the boys. And this field, I can't say it's going to be the best Classic field ever. So she might have a real shot.
I think she does. And I think she's shown in her previous races that 1.25 miles is right up her alley. She won the Delaware Handicap back-to-back at 1.25 miles. So I think she's got a shot in this field, and it reminds me a little bit of what John Gosden said when Enable, as a 5-year-old, beat Crystal Ocean this summer. These horses at 5, which is what Elate is, they are at their peak. They get better and better and better as 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and it's a great thing that, first of all, that she's still in training, and second of all, I think she's coming up to a really big race because she's getting better all the time.
Let's hear a little bit from John Gosden on the subject of racehorses as they get older.
The problem with flat racing is they are here and gone, and too much of retiring good colts at 3 to stud for the commercial reasons. I understand the commercial reasons. I understand the cost of breeding and everything else. But if you can keep these good horses in training, it is very important to the people to follow racing that they identify with a horse. It happens in our jumps racing, but it doesn't happen in our flat racing, and this is important.
Well, it's interesting what he said about racing needing older horses to keep running for fan following, but you know, a lot of owners are also breeders, and these horses become assets that they manage. Once they look like they're going to be breeding animals, especially the colts, it becomes an asset management thing. And that's why so many of these horses are retired early after their 3-year-old careers, because they feel like, well, he's never going to be more valuable than he is today. But when you look at the amount of money you can now win on the racetrack with an older horse, the Pegasus, the Dubai World Cup, the Breeders' Cup Classic, there's a lot of money to be made on the track, and there's also the asset that you're managing that becomes more valuable with additional Grade 1 victories as an older horse at 4, and God forbid, maybe even at 5. I mean, a horse with pedigree that has class, a male horse that races at 5, we really haven't seen that many of those in recent years, and it would be refreshing if you know, some of the owners who do have to pay a lot of insurance for these horses because they're so valuable, if they would you know, become more sportsmen maybe and less businessmen.
Well, it is a sport. Racing is a sport. The last time I checked, breeding wasn't a sport. I mean, people, you know, bet on racing. Do they bet on breeding? Well, maybe in some cases they do. But my point is, the sport is racing. Do you breed to race, or are we racing to breed? It's very frustrating from a fan perspective to see these horses whisked off to the stud farms. I'm looking forward to Omaha Beach coming back, but how long am I going to get to see him? Is he going to be gone at the end of this year? I don't know, but I would love to see a horse like that come back, because we haven't even seen what he could possibly do. He was scratched right before the Kentucky Derby. And I think it's Gosden used this phrase, patience with a capital P, where he's talking about how you can manage a racehorse over the span of their careers to the best effect. I look at a case like Zenyatta. She didn't start racing until she was almost 4 years old. She had an unbelievable career. 20 races, 19 of them lost by a head in the last one. Raced all the way up to age 6. Her stellar performance, winning the Classic, was at age 5. And then you have Enable, a horse who had 1 start at 2. Then she ran 7 times as a 3-year-old. So if they kept going that way, maybe the outcome would be different. But what they did was cut her considerably back as a 4-year-old, and the same thing as a 5-year-old, where she's only having 3 or 4 starts. And look at the results: 2 Arc de Triomphes and a Breeders' Cup Turf.
I mean, can you imagine if Prince Khaled had said at the end of her 3-year-old year, "Gee, she's done enough. Let's just send her to the farm and breed her." We would have missed, the incredible season. She had only 3 starts, but the Arc and the Breeders' Cup Turf, back to back in the fall. That was just something that's sensational. We haven't seen it before, in fact. So, a horse that has won both of those races. So, there's something about seeing these horses come back the following year. Code of Honor is another example of a horse that he's probably very valuable as a stallion prospect, but he's valuable to the game too. Horses like this, add value to the game. And quite frankly, this game needs some help. And the people who stand the stallions, who breed these horses, have to recognize that it's, if this game is gone, their business is gone.
Yeah, I know there's some people who argue, they shouldn't race, the Derby should be 4-year-olds, and horses shouldn't race at all until they're 4 or 5, even though the science says they need exercise as 2-year-olds. Now, does that mean they need to run a furlong in 9.5 seconds before a sale? No. But they need exercise. They need to build their bones. But it's not mutually exclusive with racing at 5. So if you start them at 2, if you manage them properly, they can be superstars at age 4 and 5. It doesn't mean you have to race them 12 times between their second and third year. I mean, like I said, manage them properly, and then exercise patience, give them rest when they need it, but keep them in the game so that we have a sport to watch, because it could go a long way in the other direction where, okay, you've got a great breeding industry, but no one's watching the races or betting on them.
Well, it's funny you mention a horse that raced at 2 and continued racing until 5. That's Smiling Tiger, a stakes winner at 2, Grade 1 winner at 3, Grade 1 winner at 4, and a graded stakes winner at 5. He raced over 4 seasons, winning 9 out of 23, standing at Harris Farms. He's got Spice Perfection out there, the Grade 1 winner of the Madison Stakes at Keeneland, who went on to win the La Brea Stakes at Santa Anita. I was at Del Mar this summer, and I saw a number of Smiling Tigers debuting, and they're precocious and fast, but I think, like him, they'll train on as well.
And there's a deal on the table here. You can't miss this. If you're looking to book a mare to Smiling Tiger, do it before January 1st or by January 1st, because the offer is $5,500, and then it's going to go up to $7,500. So get in before or by January 1st on Smiling Tiger. Thanks for their sponsorship of the Friday show. That's going to do it for this edition, and we'll talk to you next time.